Ifeoma sat on the edge of the bed, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. The room was dark, except for the dim glow of the lantern by the window. Nnamdi entered quietly, settling his briefcase down before walking over her. He didn't need to ask what was wrong, he already knew. Another month, she whispered. He knelt beside her and held her trembling hands. We'll keep trying. How long, Nnamdi? How long before God answers our prayers? Tears fell freely as she buried her face on his chest. Nnamdi said nothing. He had no answers. Years passed in a blur of hospital visits, herbal concussions, and prayer vigils. Ifeoma drank bitter teas that burned her throat and smeared strange oil on her belly at night. Nnamdi fasted and sowed seeds at church, believing his faith would move mountains. The whispers grew louder. Maybe she had an abortion when she was younger, one woman murmured in a family gathering. Or maybe Nnamdi is the problem. Another encountered. As if it is not enough problem, at a family reunion, Nnamdi's mother pulled him aside. Nnamdi Nwam, you need an heir. Marry another wife before it's too late. You are getting old. Even your wife too. She's also getting old. Don't you think that very soon she would enter menopause? Eh? Ifeoma is my wife, Mama, Nnamdi replied firmly. God will bless us when the time is right. But when will the time be right? Nnam, how many years have you been married to that woman, but no children? See your brothers, all of them has given birth to several children, even the ones you married before. They have given birth. My friends too, all of them has at least 2 children. The people that you got married before, please, consider this thing I'm telling you. It is not a sin. After all, you are marrying another wife because of the circumstances. Nnamdi looked at his mother and just sighed in disbelief and left her there. But at night, doubt crept in. What if his mother was right? After all, very soon, it's not as if they were getting any younger. Ifeoma might enter menopause, and what would now be the fate of their childlessness? One evening, Ifeoma came home from work and found Nnamdi kneeling in the living room, his Bible open before him. I've surrendered it all, he said, closing his eyes, praying fervently as tears dripped down his eyes. He looked up at her and said, we will have our child in God's time. It was the first time in years that Ifeoma allowed herself to believe again. Adobe's arrival was nothing short of miracle. When the nurse placed the baby in Ifeoma's arms, she cried so hard that Nnamdi had to steady her. She's perfect, Ifeoma whispered, running her fingers through the baby's soft curls. Nnamdi leaned down, his voice thick with emotions. Welcome, Adam. Welcome, Adobe. Our blessing. The news spread quickly. The visitors flooded their homes with gifts and prayers. Ifeoma's mother arrived with drums of palm oil and yams, while neighbors danced in celebration. This child must never know pain, Ifeoma said to Nnamdi later that night as they rocked Adobe to sleep. And she didn't know pain, really. Adobe grew up, wrapped in love and luxury. Her room was filled with dolls imported from America, and wardrobes was stocked with clothes made from the finest lace. Whenever her father traveled to many of his business trips across the world, he must make sure that he buys plenty things from all the countries that he has visited. Adobe was 6 years. She already developed a reputation. She has a spirit, Ifeoma would say whenever Adobe throws tantrums. She's stubborn, the teachers countered. One day, Adobe refused to wear her school uniform because she didn't like the color. I won't go to school looking like this, mommy. Adobe, you'll be late now. What's this? Then change it. I don't want to wear this color. I'm already tired of it. Instead of disciplining her, Ifeoma wrote a note excusing her daughter's absence. Another incident occurred on her 10th birthday. When a neighbor's child accidentally knocked over her cake, Adobe screamed and demanded they leave. Go home! I don't want you in my house again. Mommy, tell these people to go home. I don't like her. She's no longer my friend. See what she did. Nnamdi chuckled. and handed Adobe a bigger slice of cake. She knows what she wants. My daughter is a very, very confident girl. She just says her mind, and I love that about my daughter, he says proudly. But he didn't know the damage that he's causing by not disciplining his daughter. But Adobe wasn't learning independence, she was learning entitlement. Adobe was 25 when she met Chike at one of her friend's birthday party. She had worn a red gown that turned heads, and Chike couldn't take his eyes off her. He admired her hips, the way the clothes tightened against her body, accentuating all her curves. "Who is that?" he asked his friend. "That's Adobe, Nnamdi's daughter. Don't even try it. Her standards are too high." But Chike didn't listen. He didn't back down. He approached her while she was sipping champagne and smiling at compliments. "Beautiful dress," he said. Adobe raised an eyebrow. "I know." Chike laughed. "I see you're honest." She was intrigued by his confidence. He didn't worship her like the others did. She found it interesting and refreshing. They exchanged numbers, and before time could tell, their relationship grew quickly. But cracks began to show even before the wedding. "Why do you always have to win arguments?" Chike asked one evening, after they had a heated argument about just a small disagreement. "Because I'm always right." He brushed it off, believing that she would change after their marriage. But she didn't. Things got worse. Honeymoon phase didn't last long. Adobe struggled with responsibilities of marriage. She didn't like cleaning or cooking or even budgeting. When Chike suggested splitting the chores, she laughed. "I didn't grow up doing chores. Why should I start now? I have maids in my father's house, and you know about this. Come on, I'm not your maid. I'm your wife." Their first major argument came after Chike asked her to stop ordering food and start cooking. "I have told you before, I am not a housemaid. I am not a cook. I'm not a laundry girl." And Chike now shouted back, "I am not your ATM card. Maybe it is time you stopped asking me for money since you don't want to work or be helpful around the house." The words stung Adobe, and Adobe stormed off. Chike waited for her to apologize, but she didn't. Instead, she expected him to beg for forgiveness. As months turned into years, the distance grew. Chike walked late more often, and Adobe distracted herself with shopping sprees and social events. She always went for the highest shopping, and she didn't even mind. The final straw broke during a trip to Chike's village. His mother was sick, and Adobe hated every second of the visit. "I can't believe we are sleeping in the village today," she complained. "Ada, my mother is dying. Can't you think of any other person than yourself for once?" They argued all the way home. That night, Chike packed a bag and slept at his friend's house. Adobe was left alone, terrified that he might not return. The silence in the house forced Adobe to reflect. Chike had never left the house for her. Instead, she was the one doing that. But when Chike finally left, she knew that things had gotten out of hand. She remembered how her parents had shielded her from consequences and realized that she carried that mindset into marriage. For the first time, she admitted she needed help. She joined therapy and started working at a small accounting firm to prove herself and Chike that she could be independent. One evening, she surprised Chike with a dinner and an apology. "I'm sorry," she said softly. Chike looked at her, surprised, as he had never heard her apologize. "For what?" he asked, still surprised. "For everything. For not listening, for not trying, for always picking fights, for everything. Chike, I am sorry." Chike saw her sincerity and reached out to her. "We'll figure this out," he said. Years later, Adobe held her daughter, Amaka, as the toddler cried over not getting a candy. "No means no," Adobe said firmly. "But mommy!" "No, Amaka." The little girl cried, but eventually stopped crying. Adobe smiled and wiped her eyes. She thought about her parents and how much they loved her, but also how much their love blinded them. As Amaka drifted to sleep, Adobe whispered, I love you enough to teach you better. And then she knew she had broken the cycle. Thank you everyone for watching. What are your thoughts on this story? Are there life lessons to learn from this story? Share it in the comment section so that we can know your thoughts. Also, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Also turn on your notification bell so that whenever we post new videos, you'll be the first to get the notification. Please stay tuned, and more interesting stories are coming your way from this channel. Thank you so much.